actuarial. I'm gonna pass this out, Tony.
You're up. Go, sure. I need your closed meeting minutes back. Everything's right there. Great. Thank you, sir. Okay, go ahead. I knew whenever you're ready.
Good morning, and thank you to the board and the administration, the employees of Clare County for inviting me to this meeting. My name is Tony Rajenovich. I'm in my 18th year as a regional manager for MERS. And my region is basically the northern half of the lower peninsula of Michigan. And my role is to do just this, to come here and meet with the boards and administrations to provide them information about the plans that they have adopted and asked MERS to administer for your employees. And the plan that we're going to discuss today is the MERS defined benefit plan. To give you a little bit more information about who MERS is, because maybe not everyone understands what MERS stands for, this Municipal Employees Retirement Systems of Michigan. So in that handout that Lori just sent out was the Your Partner in Retirement. It's a short little booklet. I want to go through that, and I'll start on page 2. And here it says that our mission is to support a secure retirement for those who serve Michigan communities. We proudly serve more than 1,000 municipalities representing over 150,000 participants, including firefighters, nurses, and the people who plow our roads and keep our communities safe. Gives you some numbers there on our how many different plans throughout Michigan participate, and that's 84%. Tells you again how many participants we have in the plan statewide. And then our pension, the assets under management under MERS is about $17 billion. Are we all on the holding up the colorful one that says Your Partner in Retirement? Just want to make sure. Page 3 sort of tells you about who we are and what we do. We are an organization that administers retirement plans for Michigan municipality and your local units of government on a not-for-profit basis. We offer comprehensive services, keep costs low, and put our members' interests first, making us the fiduciary of the plan. So you guys don't have to worry about that. The MERS Retirement Board is the fiduciary. As you go through there, it explains how that board is made up. We offer many different programs. You guys have a few of those here. A lot of this comes into the defined benefit plan where it says, well, well-funded stability on page 4. And you can see there, out of all the plans that are in the defined benefit plan, that bar graph is showing you how many are over 100% funded and how many are under 50% funded and who are in the middle. 70% to 79% is the most common area where our groups land, and that's also where the county of Clare lands, in that 70% funded range. Often plans within MERS, our open plans, as is the county of Clare, they're scheduled to be fully eliminate their legacy costs or their unfunded accrued liability within the next 15 years. And that's part of how the structure of your required contributions are set up. And then it's also saying that there are many groups over the years that have taken time or taken dollars to put in additional dollars to reduce that unfunded liability even quicker. Going on to page 5. This talks about pension cost reduction options. And MERS has partnered with many groups, helping them achieve their fiscal goals by reviewing these options, define the programs and provisions that best fit them. We did that here at Clare not too long ago. You guys took that first option and you went to a lower benefit for new hires. I think it was in 2017, for most of your divisions, not all of your divisions, because you have multiple divisions. Depending on what division your employees are in, depends on what their benefit is. And we're gonna get into that in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. But there are other options here, and you may wanna look at these as these other options like the bridge benefit or the bridge COLA or hybrid, or we've discussed that in the past with our different boards over my years here at MERS. Defined contribution or even a defined benefit free. These are some things that we can look at. You can see that other groups have done it, there are options, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Many groups have asked their employees to cost share. That's been done here at Claire since you guys started with MERS. We've always asked your members to pay a bit of their own wages to reduce the cost of that plan to the county. And then voluntary additional contribution put in to help reduce unfunded accrued liability. And we'll talk about the OPEB strategies on page 6. Here's a real important thing, because people want to know, does MERS invest the money that you send us each month judiciously? Do we take good care of it? And so this graph that we have here on page 7, the top graph, it's trying to, this graph illustrates if $10,000 was put in the MERS defined benefit portfolio in 1975, what would that be worth just because of compounded interest here in as of December 2024? If we would have just made the assumed rate of return over those years, it would have been that blue number, 421,373. But they actually outperformed our long-term rate of assumption, and those dollars that would be worth 690,341. So MERS has returned 64% more than what we assumed it would have over that period. And for those that like to crunch numbers, on the bottom of page 7 is our year-by-year returns. And these are gross of fees. So MERS has a fee right now to manage the defined benefit plan. We charge 29 basis points. So about 1/3 of 1%, a little less than 1/3 of 1%. And that's all that's including what I do to come out here and meet all the administration of writing your retirees and checks every month. Making sure that we have an actuarial done every year, our legal compliance, keeping the investment team employed so that they keep investing the dollar. So the entire operation is done at 29 basis points, so less than 1/3 of 1%. And then we have to follow fiscal best practices that we're required to. And the first thing that it talks about there is an experience study that's done every 5 years to see if the experience of your defined benefit plans or the MERS defined benefit plan that you're part of is in the range of reason when we actually value the experience to what we were assuming is going to happen. And when that doesn't happen and it doesn't fall in line, we make changes to those assumptions so that we can get more in line with experience. So, and then this is a question that comes up often, but all the dollars that the county sends into MERS each month, we take that in and we pool that in with all the other municipalities. And we use that for investment purposes only, but it's tracked separately. And then the pensions earned by your employees are being paid out of your dollars only. You never have to pay for anyone else's pensions. And that's, and we pool them so that we can get economies of scale when we're dealing with investment managers and buying different investments to, hopefully, and as we have, maximize your return. So that's all that I have on this little brochure. I went over it quickly, but before we dig into the numbers of your annual evaluation, are there any questions about how we're structured, about our governance, and what we're doing for the county of Clare needs employees? Seeing none, I will now move over to your annual evaluation. We're going to talk a little bit in more detail about the defined benefit plan and how that your costs are computed to fund that plan. So the cover page just tells you that, we hire out our actuarial services to Gabriel Rutherford. And then when you get to page 2, that's a letter from Gabriel Rutherford explaining what this report does. And there's 5 bullet points in the middle of page, it's actually the second cover page, it's not it's page 1. It says that, the purpose of this valuation is to measure the funding progress as of 12/31/24. It establishes your contribution requirements for your fiscal year beginning January 1 of 2026. Provides information regarding the identification of assessments of risk. And that's at the back of the report. I don't think we'll spend any time on that unless you ask. We provide actuarial information in connection with GASB or government accounting standing boards that your auditors like to have. And we provide information to assist local units of government with state required reporting through Public Act 202. There's additional information in here that talks about how Gabriel Rutherford is a consultant to MERS. So that we are following best practices, not only in the administration of our pension system, but that they are also following best practices as an actuary in computing. The values of these pensions and the cost of these pensions and the assumptions that are used to come up with those values. If you wanted to look at all of our assumptions, you see there on page 2. But if you had an electronic version, you could click on to the appendix and dive real deep into how those assumptions are used. I'm going to skip past the table of contents, which is and move to page 6. It started the executive summary. The funded ratio of a plan is the percentage of the dollar value of the actuarial accrued liability or the value of pensions earned that is covered by the actual value of assets, the amount of money that is on hand to pay those benefits. While the funded ratio may be a useful plan measurement, understanding the plan's funding trend may be more important than a particular point in time, because this funded ratio is only as of 12/31/2024. And we'll give you historical data on table 7. Going down to page 7, this will talk about your required contributions, and it's a little bit high level here because it's in the executive summary. I'll go through those employer contributions in more detail in table 1. And then also your employee contributions are stated here again, and I will go through those on table 1. So I'm not skipping through it. It's just going to be in greater detail and easier to read on table 1. There's a note on the bottom of page 7 that says more strongly employers encourage employers to contribute more than the minimum contribution shown above. That's just so you can get the 100% funding quicker. Sooner you put dollars in, sooner they can take advantage of our long-term rate of returns. Page 8 is saying that if you're gonna put additional dollars in this, you want to get to 100% funded in 10 years, what would that additional amount of money be? And it says that if you're required to put in about $130,000 a month now, if you put in $156,000 a month, in 10 years, you would be 100% funded versus 15 years. That's just the budgetary means of improving your funding. No needs to do that. It's all voluntary. They ask, why do numbers change? They go through different reasons of why numbers change, meaning your required contributions and funding levels. We can get into that if you'd like. But then we get some comments on the investment rate of return. MERS has a long-term investment rate of return of 6.93%. It's an odd number. We got to there through some different ways. We should just bring it down based on some consultation from Gabriel Rutherford. But what we ended up doing recently is called dedicated gains, because dedicated gains got to these less than round numbers of like 8 or 7 3/4 or 7.5, things like that. And that dedicated gains was process in which to use, we had really good return years. Lower the assumed rate of return without having to do it, because the long-term trend of investment returns wasn't going to hit that 8%, which it's not anymore. The whole nation has reduced their long-term rate of return from 8% in the average, about 7%. Going on into page 8 of the, or 9 of the executive summary, we talked about smoothing. What smoothing does is and every year, we only recognize 1/5 of that return. You earned it. It's actually there. The market rate is there. But when we calculate your required contributions and we calculate your funded position, every year we only recognize 1/5 of that. So we're looking at back from 2024, 5 years. And so, any of the gains and losses in any given year, they start out with 1/5 and we add to that. And those that we've already passed through drop off. So, our actual market rate of return in 2024 was 7.28%. However, 5 years back smooth is only 3.79. And if you remember the previous document we were looking at, where it showed our returns over the years in that table, 2022, there was a 10% loss. And that's why the smooth rate is at 3.79. There are some links here to see how smoothing works, a video. If you really want to get into that, you can get Lori to send you the electronic copy of this and you can click onto that. It's kind of quirky and corny, but it's very informative with the way that they put it together. And then there's a defined benefit resource page. It has a lot of information on for if you really want to dig into this. What that means is by smoothing, when we tell you what your actuarial rate of assets are, they're overstated by 7%. So therefore, if we use market rate of assets right now, county would be 66% funded versus 70%. Some people are really concerned about, well, the 6.93%, is that too optimistic? What if it was lower? So at the bottom of page 10, we show you what your funded position would be if it was 1% or 2% lower than the 6.93%. As you can see, if we change the long-term rate of return, that increases liability and decreases your funded ratio. And we use that same example going on into our projection scenarios that we have on page 11. Looking at the top bar on page 11, you see that we have a 6-year projection here. We showed you what we returned in 2024. Valuations, you have liabilities of over 36 million, you have assets of 25 million, you're 70% funded. Your contribution requirements are 1.562 million. As you see that as we work through the remaining 2 years of losses of 2022, they'll drop to 69%, then 69%, and then you'll start to go back up again. 70, 73, 75. That's only if we hit our return, our assumed rate of return and all assumptions in there. But you see an estimated annual employer contributions continue to go up. And that's because we're working towards 100% funded. If someone, I'm on page 11, so I'm looking for that. So we go to page 12, we take that table and we put it into a graph. And if you look at it, that solid blue line shows you when you will be 100% funded, and that's at the end of 2039, 15 years from now. And then we expected you to remain there. If we are using those low rates of return, you'd still get there at the same time because of our amortization policy. However, when you go to the bottom graph, you see that you're paying slightly over 1.5 million a year to fund this plan. If we are at the 5.93 or the 4.93, you can see that you start out at a much higher amount. However, once we are fully funded, we start to drop down to where the long-term normal cost of this plan is actually under $1 million a year, and that's in, 2040 and 2042 dollars. So we're assuming payroll inflation or payroll growth between now and then, and even with that, we're expecting that your costs will continue to drop, and the only reason once it drops down and it starts to slightly go back up, that's assuming that payroll growth that will happen. Well into the future. Here's table 1 on the next page, page 13. We have 6 units listed there. And then on the left, those are the different divisions. Then the next column says total normal cost. Going from left to right, then you have employee contribution rate. As you can see, all divisions have your employees cost sharing to reduce the cost of that plan to the employer. Then when you get employer normal cost, you see only 3 columns with a number, because 3 of those divisions are closed to new hires. When you're closed to new hires, a percent of funding, a percent of payroll funding doesn't make any more sense, because payroll is going down every year because you don't have new hires going in. So it's a flat dollar amount, and we're funding that unfunded accrued liability that way. You can also see the next column is the payment of the unfunded accrued liability. And if you're, as you can see, that paying off your unfunded accrued liability is 2 times that of what your normal cost is. So it's about $1 million a year. Your normal cost is about $500,000 a year. So the cost of your plan, if we didn't have unfunded accrued liability, it would only be about $500,000 a year. But we're funding that legacy cost. And there's many reasons why that legacy cost is there. And therefore your total contributions would be that. By looking at this graph, this is where we talk about the cost of the benefit. And this is where boards usually want to know more information. What questions do you have about the cost of the plan? So one way to state this is if you look at the employer normal cost, the normal cost of your current plans right now are 8.51% of pay, 6.69% of pay, and 7.22% of pay. So roughly, it's around a 7% cost is what, on average, is what the county is paying for a pension plan for your employees. So table 2 talks about the different provisions, and you can see in division 1, the UAW, it's still at a 2.25% multiplier. The flow police and fire had that old 2.25. The flows UAW units 1 and 2 that had the 2.25. But the new UAW has a 2% multiplier. And the closed police had the 2.25 and the new police and fire has the 2.0. So that's when you utilize that strategy of a lower benefit for new hires. We did that starting, I believe, in 2017. What's unique here to look at on table 3, page 17, is it tells you how many employees you have in each division. When you look here at the bottom, it adds it all up. You have 420 lives in your pension system. You have 111 that had paid money in, but yet are not eligible by age or by vesting to receive a benefit. That's why we call it pending refunds. They can ask for a refund of their member contributions if they wish. If they don't, they can keep it as deferred, and the service credit that they earn here, they can use to help meet eligibility somewhere else or here. But in many cases, we try to reach out to those members and inform them on what their options are, so they can take them if they choose to take those dollars back. And therefore those people come off your books. The only reason they would ever get a pension for the time that they were here is if they um had enough time, at least 12 months, or if they're going to the state at least 30 months. Otherwise, they should just take a refund. Guess they wouldn't be able to get it. The other thing is that you got 56 members that are vested. And that Sunday will be eligible to draw down the pension for their years of service. It may be a relatively small pension, because it's based on their years, but they are eligible once they reach a certain age. Then you have 137 active employees in the plan, and you have 116 beneficiaries in the plan. And that 116 beneficiaries, they're getting about $1.7 million a year. Table 4, page 18 shows you that 7% difference between actuarial value of assets and market value of assets. Table 5 shows that back in 2014 and 2015, 16 put a few extra additional dollars in. But it shows you what your required contributions were over time. And you can see that your required contributions have continually increased. Member contributions have increased, but not at the rate of employer contributions. The investment income shows you how much money is being added to the asset column due to the return on those assets. You can see that your benefit payments on this scale went from about $1 million per year to about 1.6 million per year. And then how many of those employees took those pending refunds they spoke about? As you can see that back in 2022, that's the largest year of refunds being issued. And then the final column is your valuation. And then how did it become 70% funded? On table 6, we take all your divisions and we break down the accrued liability by classification of the member. Then we add it up and then we show you what that liability is by division and then each division. So you can look at on a divisional basis, which groups are funded and how they're and how they are funded. As you can see, divisions 11 and divisions 22, those lower defined benefit plans that you put in place are highly funded. They're 121% funded and 128% funded. So when you made that change, you can see how that has benefited the county. You have one unit that is still in the old plan. And that one's 65% funded. Your closed plans of police are 73%. Your closed division units, UAW 1 and 2 is at 58. And then your police non-super others is at 74.9. So you can see how the plan change that you made about 8 years ago has actually, I think, accomplished what I think your board wanted to accomplish back then. This board is a different board. What do you guys want to accomplish now? What are you looking at? And so that's my quick rundown of the valuation and the data that's included in that. There's more data in it. It said there's stuff where you're at auditor. There's stuff that talks about how the amortization policy works. There's risk assessments. That's where we're getting into a deeper dive into the pension plan. And I'm willing to go there if you want me to, but I'm here for your questions now about what you're thinking about plans that we have.
Maybe I missed it on the investments that MERS makes on our money. It shows that there's ups and downs every year. Now, did it show an average of a 10-year average or a 20-year average in here of the investment?
It said along on that other plan, your partner in retirement. I think that was on page 7. Let me go back to it. 7. On page 7 of your partner retirement, the annualized 35-year rate of return for MERS defined benefit is 7.93%.
So
I think that answers your question.
better than average then.
If you would like to see, like you would, when you usually look at like Morningstar, it says your 1 year, 3 year, 5, 10. We have that, and that's available on our investments page on our MERSofMich.com website. And you can look at our total market fund. You can look at that also in our annual report that MERS has available to you. So it's not in that managing UIL one, but it's available if you want that.
Yeah, because some of the years were double digit minuses, I guess.
Yeah, if you look here on page 7.
Yeah.
You see it in 2022 is at 10.24. The last double digit loss that we had
Oh, wait.
was 08.
Was,
And
there was a 20.
in those two instances,
25 almost.
Yeah,
that was still half of what the S&P 500 lost.
yeah.
And that's where when I said, maybe I didn't say it, the investment team is set up for downside protection. So you don't want to lose the dollars that you have, because it's so hard to make it back up. So we're downside protection, upside participation. So the market skyrockets, we're here. When the market tanks, we're here.
Mhm.
And so, and that's what we're doing. We're protecting your dollars from loss while still trying to earn. That's why that modest 6.93% return. Some people, I want 12, but we're set at 6.93 so as not to lose your dollars.
We do,
Huh?
we do.
Page 8 has acceleration of 100% funding. And page 8, you have 100% funding on acceleration over 10 years. What would be the advantage of doing that?
So. When I said that you had like 30-something million dollars in liability and $25 million in assets, and the difference is around 11 million bucks. Well, what we really do is we need it. It's not like a loan that you're paying off. Is that this plan is developed that you need to make 6.93% on all your assets. So you're not making 6.3% on the 11 million that's not in there. So therefore, to catch up, you have to pay even more money than otherwise. And that's why your unfunded accrued liability payment is so much more than your normal cost. Because the money's not in the asset column, making that assumed rate of return. And so the advantage of putting more money in is asset gains on those dollars, so that ultimately, if you put more money in now, you pay less later. That's the answer. If you needed the numbers or something, we could run some projections on if you put additional dollars in, how would that reduce your cost over future years?
I think that would be beneficial.
You would have to just ask me before what type of contribution you're thinking about putting in, and then we could show you how that would impact your future required contribution. I don't know what your budget allows, but you say, you think your budget could allow this, and you run those numbers for them.
Did you run those numbers?
We ran it last year. We looked at it last year. For a $1.5 million payment into MERS, and I have those numbers, but we would look at it again. No, I want to look at it again this year.
And I'm sorry, I don't recall what the results were, but that's a common question for most of our groups, so if I don't have them all in my head, I'd have to call the doc.
I don't remember either. I just know that we thought maybe we would wait another
Yep.
year and see where we were at with our fund balance, and then, be able to possibly invest another 1.5 or 1.5 million.
But to piggyback on Rick's question of getting at the top of page 8, it said to get that 100% over 10 years, it's just that additional $26,604 extra per month.
Mhm.
Which computes to almost 320,000 extra per year
Go 3 million.
for 10 years.
Yeah,
Right, so but you're talking about 1.5, just one time lump sum?
yeah. We talked about it.
Yeah.
We were looking at different scenarios. To see what we could do to change the unfunded liability percentage. And one was a lump sum. Right now, we're just doing about $200,000 more a year.
So we are doing more extra.
We are,
Already, just
yeah,
not.
we're going through the smoothing period.
And so the benefit of one lump sum is that it reduces the amount of employer contributions that we're required to make in order to make up the 6.3% difference of non-invested
It wouldn't lower,
funds.
it wouldn't lower it much until after it's 100% funded.
Okay,
So, wait,
so it just gets us a lot closer to that 100%
It gets
funded,
us
so that way we're
closer.
not making up the difference
A
of
little bit quicker, yeah.
non-invested.
Yeah.
so there's a couple different ways that groups use this. Some like to put in dollars. And they put it in there, but they put it what's called the surplus funds. You'll see some notes in that annual valuation that says not surplus not included, surplus included. What they do is they want to improve their funded position, so they add another division, like in table 6 there, it says surplus funds division, and it just holds assets. It doesn't have liability associated with pensions earned by employees. So if you put in an extra $1 million in and put it in the surplus funds, it wouldn't change how we compute your required contributions to fund the plan. It would just assets getting investment returns that. While also you're not just putting additional dollars. You're putting in additional dollars plus paying what you otherwise would have if those additional dollars weren't there. So, cause if you put it into the divisions. What that does is that we're still that amortization period is still gonna be followed. So now you have more assets, so you would pay a little bit less. So it all depends on what your needs are. Do you have surplus dollars now, but you may not have it in the future, so you may put it towards the divisions. But if you have surplus dollars now and can't afford that projected climb until it drops off. Well, then what you do is you put it into the surplus funds division so that you can get there in 10 years or 9 years or 8 years versus the 15 years. And so there's different ways in which to do that, and all of that can be valued, and give a projection for you. It's just, we have to tell Lori what you guys are thinking about, and we can do that. That's one strategy in that booklet of managing UAL that we didn't really go through, but it did talk about it in your partner in retirement about putting additional dollars. So it's a topic that.
And then we also discussed, not too long ago in closed session, the request that we have with the minutes that we're negotiating right now. Running hires, so. Which will make a difference.
So on table 6, we do not have a surplus division currently, right?
No.
I don't believe you
No,
do.
no,
Nope.
no.
Nope.
So that would be one of the potential proposals, create that surplus division, do what you said.
Yes.
Helps pay down that difference
Yeah.
between valued assets and. The total.
The unfunded liability.
And in managing UAL, towards the end of that, it does have a discussion about. Additional voluntary contributions and compares it on a hypothetical between just putting additional dollars. To the divisions to fund them better or to put into the surplus funds.
I think I have exactly what you and I talked about. I think I printed it off for today.
All right.
I just didn't print it. I'll be
And
correct.
and so there is data for you to review. I know that Lori's ready to put that up. Put managing UAL, like,
Sure.
We'll go through that real quickly. Managing UAL, and I think it's on page 18 or 19. You wanna go to that?
Looking at it, up here,
Not open?
just 1 second, it should.
Just
I
click
had it.
off of where the name is instead of clicking on the name.
There it is. I think you go down to like page 18 or 19. I gotta put glasses on today. Yeah, the plan benefit lump sum payout, no, keep lump sum buyout, keep going one more. One more, right there, funding options. So it really talks about here and on this page, and I'm gonna go, it's still too hard for me to see, I'm gonna bring it up on mine. Here. And
Yeah, that one wasn't working or something. This is.
So it says that the most direct way of addressing you is making additional payments into the plan. Let's consider, three ways your Minnesota could approach this. One is, that you can make additional voluntary contributions to the plan. The other is additional voluntary contributions to the surplus funds division. And then, you can see what happens here. So if you look over here in the baseline, your funded position is what it is. In that first column, the ADC is your required contributions. It says if you're putting in additional dollars, the total employer contributions are what it is. And you can see what happens. There was no additional dollars. Eventually, you're gonna be 100% funded. In the next column, on the next page, the highlighted column. Oops, too far. You see over there on the left that you put in additional dollars. Okay, additional contributions, if you put in a big lump sum, it actually causes your additional the additional contributions lower your ADC. So if I went back to the previous page, you see that eventually they're lower than they otherwise would have been. So like starting in year, when you're at 61% funded, or excuse me, the first year, it stays the same, but the second year, it goes from 121,000 to 117,000. So by paying in more to the divisions, can lower your ADC amount. And that's where you put the money in now, because you might not have it later. And that's why you put it directly to the divisions. In that column to the right, you see where you put in an additional 50,000 every year, but to the surplus funds, it did not lower your ADC amount. It kept it the same. But you reached 100% funded quicker. If you look at the two columns there, you see at the bottom, it says fully funded at the same time as baseline. This one says you're fully funded sooner than baseline. That's theoretically how it works. By putting in the surplus funds division.
So in that third, the one on the right,
Yeah.
this is if we do that surplus amount over, what is that, 5 years, adding in the.
That was just an example. You could
But
do
it
one
would-
big lump sum
The
or.
difference would be is we'd start realizing that difference sooner if it's 5 years sooner where all of the money is in there.
Yes. You'd see that you reach, I just wanted to make sure that I understand the question. It will, by putting the money in sooner, you'll reach 100% funded quicker. Because you're paying that same timeline, you continue to pay, once you're over 100% funded. You know, you can see the required contributions, they didn't change them down, they otherwise would have.
On the right, show
Yeah.
you keep your payment the
Right,
same and
right.
put the money in.
Also,
Showing additional contributions over
if you
5
guys
years.
would remember, I don't know if you
We're
remember
talking
this or
same,
not, but,
both same, but I
Um,
know quicker is.
Right, because
If you
you've
look at-
maintained.
cause I emailed about it, the county decided to do 1.5 million. If it's better spent now to improve funding and reduce future required pension contributions, or use the 1.5 million elsewhere and manage slightly higher required pension contributions. At the time, the investments were really high for Jen. And so the county was making more money in the interest of the investments that Jenny was doing, as opposed to paying more onto the retirement.
Yeah,
So, but that may change too.
yeah, cause, you know, we're tailing off of this high interest period that we went through that. It didn't happen since I was a kid, and then we had high interest yields again, so. Most of our municipalities, because they have to put your money in Public Act 20, which is very restricted, but yet was returning quite well. Compared to what it was doing 5 or 10 years ago. And so, low risk, good return, why not keep that money in those, in those Public Act 20 accounts that you have? Whereas. You're having money there, you can utilize it for what you want, you can still leave a lot of money there, but you could take some of those dollars that you wanted to put towards this as well. You could sort of do both, because the interest. They've gone down, but I don't think they've gone down to what they were 5 or 10 years ago.
no.
No.
It's still really.
Yeah, they're not at the peak, but they're still pretty good. And so that's a low risk for for county dollars. And, MERS is a risk, but it's not low risk like Public Act 20 money. Because we have to invest in the market because we have a growth model, because if we don't have growth, then we won't be able to fund these pensions.
So what are the advantages and disadvantages of getting to fully funded quick?
The advantages, to getting fully funded quicker, is that it costs less over the long term. So, you can add, we could add up what your required payments are gonna be. You can do a full projection between now and those 15 years. And you can see that you're paying unfunded accrued liabilities of, you gotta pay off that $11 million, right? If you had $11 million, you put it in now and all of our assumptions were met going forward, you'd pay $11 million. But because you're paying it on time, that $11 million over the next 15 years may cost you, and I don't know what it would be, but much more than $11 million. It could cost you $17 million. And so that's the difference. That's the advantage if you have it. But that's, you know, can you do it? And is it the best way to use your citizens' dollars? I mean, you have the option to pay it over this amortization period. You know it's gonna happen. And we did give you a 6-year projection of
Yes.
what those costs are gonna be. And then we did give you a graph where you can sort of look at it. We could extend that out for a 15-year period for you if you wanted us to. So you could do that analysis.
So what's the biggest risk of extending it over 15 years? What kind of risk? I mean,
We have to plan for it, you know, the increase in payment. Which we have been planning for it.
It's gonna, your required contribution, if we just pay the minimum required ADC or annual required determined contribution. If we go back to the annual valuation. Which
So-
is on that graph, page 11. I think it was, I'm gonna try to see what that graph says, but it tops out about $2 million in 2041, so you're paying starting now at 1.5. And then every year it's gonna go up to where it tops out at 2.5 million. Over the next 15 years, so. You're
So,
paying a lot.
yeah. But, so without making the $1.5 million additional contribution. This year, the payment is 1.5 million. If we would have made a $1.5 million additional contribution last year, the payment would be 1.3 million, which there was more money made in interest for investments than there would have been. For this, but this goes out for, through 2029. So you can see what without the 1.5 million, and I just use 1.5 million as a number. For additional contribution and then what it would be without. So if you wanna see this, but, you know, like I said, at the time, there was more money being made in the interest and investments than the difference.
What does MERS invest their money in?
A fully diversified portfolio. Stocks, bonds, domestic stocks and bonds. International stocks and bonds. Farm equipment, agriculture, private equity, lumber, office space, real estate, even toll roads. It's quite diverse.
But aren't you kind of regulated on so much percent that you can invest in, like the stock market, so much in real estate, and so much in various other entities?
So, the MERS Act, so what it says is our assets are invested in accordance with the Public Employee Retirement Systems Investment Act. So that is the law that we follow. And there's also a state law that was created, it's called the MERS Act, and we follow that law. But that does give us the ability to invest in a whole range of things that is typically not allowed, like in Public Act 20. And, so we can get to real, what some would say is higher risk stuff. But that's not our philosophy. We're kind of risk averse, in our philosophy. We're looking for, downside protection, upside participation. Some of the things that we have to do is like mean revision. We understand that an investment will revert back to its mean. And so we're looking for the opportunities of when to sell, just as much as we're looking for the opportunity of when to buy. And our private equity over the years has helped us a lot. A fair amount of our private equity is in agriculture. Others are in tech. Tech is, every sector that you can think of, MERS is investing in it. Because we have to be fully diversified, because there's a heat map of what sectors you should invest in. And you look at this heat map, not every year this one sector is going to be great. They all change every year. And there's trends maybe for periods of years, and then they change. So MERS is fully diversified to take advantage of the sectors of the market when we can.
So if everything goes really good on the investment portfolios, would it be safe to say it would cut our what we would need to contribute?
So if we would always outperform our returns, like, let's go back to page 7 of, your partner in retirement. There was a period there in the late 90s, we call that the dot-com bubble, starting there in 1995. And you can see that there was a 23% return, a 12% return, a 14, a 14, a 17. During that period, there were boards that were providing defined benefits and saying their investments are just paying the pension. There's no money that has to come out of our pocket because we're fully funded and it's paying so much that we can just give benefits away. And that was short-lived because it was a bubble. And everyone thought that it was doing so great. It was hysteria. And even when that bubble burst in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 came back with a vengeance, 24% return. Yeah, we're back. And people started to drink that Kool-Aid again. It didn't last. But yeah, that sort of hit us hard enough to where we're still more, afraid. But that dot-com bubble of the late 90s. So to say that will we do that, that's not how we're set up. We have a long-term rate of return, and we protect the dollars, and we'll try to participate. But we set it at 6.93% because we're conservative. And so are we going to set a portfolio up to try to get double-digit returns? No. We're going to participate when the general markets rise, but we're going to stay conservative because we're not going to lose your dollars. We're going to protect against that loss. We will lose them. It shows you on table 7 when we have, but that's our goal. But if we outperform, absolutely. Your money makes money, and it pays that unfunded accrued liability off.
And that 6.93 is not including the 0.29% that you guys take.
So the 6.93% is our long-term rate of return. When I said earlier that we achieved the 7, right here, it says on table 7, we got 8.7% in 2024. On table 7 of your page 7, page 7 of your partner in retirement. And that table, it says 2004 was 8.07 gross of fees. That was our performance. When I was on your annual evaluation on page 9, I said that we did 7.28%. That's more than that 2.9%, but really what that's taken into it's a calculation difference there. But the 7.8 that we achieved in 2004, that is net of fees. So you're correct. When we talk about our performance. That's not taking into account the 0.29 basis points. That the 29 basis points that come on.
Mr. Chair, I just have one more question, kind of continues to piggyback off what Rick's talking about. So when you look at that, graph you got on page 4 of your, first. This one right here. Talk about where 190 municipalities. We could probably argue that the 69% could be added as well. We're all in that range, 70% funded. What is, again, all these people are sitting there at 70%, is that where they wanna be? Is that where we should be? Is that the accepted area? Or is everyone striving to get to 100%? They just haven't gotten it.
Good question. A little bit of history here, and it's to me about a 2-minute answer, but the answer is this. When everyone started to come into MERS, no one had to be 100% funded. When you started, you could have brought in and said, we're adopted a defined benefit plan. We have 100 members on staff, and therefore they have various years of service credit. We're going to give everyone the service credit from their original date of hire. Therefore, we have liabilities of $5 million, but we only have $1 million in assets, so we're 20% funded. And you started that way. And you have slowly been working your way up. There are many reasons why groups that were 100% funded went below that. Because if we have a assumption of a long-term rate of return of 8%, people are gonna die at 62. And then we change that and say we're gonna have a long-term rate of return at 6.93, people are gonna die at 82. Well, then liability just went up. So there's many things that we've done because over the years, people started living longer and we used to make a lot more money. Back in the early 80s, getting 8% was almost done on the bond market, like we were talking about bonds just recently. And so there's lots of reasons why this ratio goes up and down. But the reason they're all there is most of our groups never really had to start at 100%. And then what a lot of groups did, they said in that late 90s, they said the markets are great. Let's just instead of giving raises, we'll give benefits. And they gave benefits. Because like, look at this money, we're making so much money every year. And it didn't continue. So the supplemental valuations that they were getting, it was a projection with data that did not hold true into the future. And therefore, now the defined benefit of today is so much more conservative in our assumptions. We're not expecting to make 8%, we're expecting to make 6.93. We expect people to live much longer. We're using multi-generational life tables, not just a number. And that's why I really can't tell you how long we're expected to live, because each generation is slightly different. We have different fiscal fences in place that you can't adopt the benefit unless you're higher funded or pay for it up front. So there are a lot of groups that were 100% funded, offered benefit improvement and dropped. Most of our groups years ago started with a 1.5% multiplier or something lower. Then they worked their way up to higher multipliers and they didn't have to pay for it at that time. So what they did is they added liability, dropped the funded position by benefit improvements. Then some people said, we got to downsize government. There's too many people. So then they started offering window retirements. They didn't have to pay for it. We said, you all can leave earlier than otherwise. Start collecting checks earlier. That costs downsizing like that costs a lot of money. And so that dropped funded position. So there's lots of things that were done over these years that are not, everyone has their own unique story. Every municipality has their own unique story about why their funded positions went up and down and what benefits they adopted when they first came in. And there's a history here for Claire when you guys first came in. And that's at the back of your annual valuation. We'll take a peek to see what you guys came in with on Division 1, because that was your first division. When I find that history. And so when Division 1 first came in, you had a 1% multiplier for the FAC of $4,200. And then for any wages after that, they got a 1.5% multiplier. I don't know what the annual salaries were in 1970 or 67, excuse me. But it could have been around $5,000. You know what I mean? So it's all relative, right? And then you gave benefit improvements over the years. And up until actually 2009, you didn't have to pay for them upfront. You could advertise them over long periods of time. And so that's part of your history here, is that you did improve the benefits and you did have a temporary, back in 2004. If you had 20 years, you could retire. You'd be 38 years old. And get a paycheck for the rest of your life, if you went through that window. So there were a lot of things that all groups took, and that is their story of why they're in that group. And a lot of, this county is no different than municipalities all over the state. All groups did that. Those groups that are highly funded, we find these are groups that have very low turnover and pay a lot of dollars, and then the people work a lot longer and they don't retire at their earliest eligibility. And then they don't collect a lot of dollars because they retired for a shorter period of time before they pass. Those are some stuff. That's a generalization, but you know, that's what typically happens for those highly funded groups. Other questions?
Thank you.
My pleasure. As always, if you're gonna come up with something that you want us to value for you, we will be happy to do that and get back to you. Thank you for taking the time and your questions. I will let you on for the rest of your meeting. David, you think the first motion of the justice?
Of course. Motion to appropriate $100,000 child care fund from the remaining of this year.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
The moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Kind of mystery, is this guy to do with the orders to give information that's provided in the packet?
Just certainly said.
It's completely separate.
Hey, roll call, please.
Major,
Yes.
Yes.
Hauser? Yes. Oakley,
Yes.
Haskell,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
everybody.
Motion carried. Dave, would you do 20 months?
Make a motion. I make a motion to decrease the amount of tax dollars assessed in the 2025 winter taxes for Spongy Moth from 0.9861 of 1 mil to 0.60000.
I'll second it.
Then moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Haskell,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Everybody,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Jeske,
Yes.
Hauser. Yes. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Marlene.
Make motion to approve the L 4029 millage rates to be levied for the 2025 winter tax bills.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
The form that's in our packet, Lori,
Yes,
the date on it, is that backdating it to July 22nd?
That was just the date it was printed.
Okay, so that's not the correct today's date that the chair signed.
Okay, roll call, please.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Haskell,
Yes.
Everybody,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Jeske,
Yes.
Hauser,
yes,
Oakley,
Yes.
Gilmore.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Great.
Motion to approve statutory finance committee meeting minutes of July 21st, 2025, in the amount of $62,203.35, and the minutes of August 4th, 2025, in the amount of $117,395.07.
Second. Been moved and seconded, roll call please.
Brusagas.
Yes.
Bankett.
Yes.
Gilmore.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Haskell.
Yes.
Oakley.
Yes.
Hauser. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Drewski.
Yes.
Okay. Jay,
I move to approve the expenditures for the month of July 2025 in the amount of $2,993,492.80, with the general fund expenditures totaling $1,437,014.63.
Second,
okay, it's been moved and seconded, roll call please.
Oakley.
Yes.
Bankett.
Yes.
Drewski.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Gilmore.
Yes.
Brusagas.
Yes.
Reinhardt.
Yes.
Haskell.
Yes.
Hauser.
yes,
Okay, Jeff,
And make a motion to approve budget adjustments number 25-173 in the amount of $126,000 and adjustment number 25-184 in the amount of $57,200 and number 25-186 in the amount of $91,468.12.
I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to make those budget adjustments, roll call please.
Gilmore.
Yes.
Reinhardt.
Yes.
Drewski.
Yes.
Bankett.
Yes.
Haskell.
Yes.
Brusagas.
Yes.
Hauser.
yes,
Gross.
Yes.
Oakley.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Jacobs.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2516, entering into the declaration of trust to invest county funds into local government investment pool.
There a second?
I'll second that.
Are there any questions?
Yes, there are. Madam Treasurer, I have a couple questions. This, MyLab, Michigan Liquid Asset Fund Plus, that is primarily for school, is not.
They have two sections. One is the school, which is the MyLab, and then there's a sub-account under the MyLab that's for municipalities called GovMike. I put that in the email. Guys, it's in the documents.
Gov money.
GovMike, MIC.
Okay, so in that, those two classes, you're not looking to put money into the cash management class? Just in the
GovMike.
just in
It's
that,
for municipal, yeah, it's for the municipal.
they have three classes, if we're all gonna look at that last.
Correct.
Okay, and that one is a 0.23%. Cost. For investments.
I'm not 100% sure right now.
In that second document that you sent.
They have the, those were there when they originally started. That's not what their rates are currently right now, but I can check into that for you.
Okay, cause their rate of return is like 0.38. And when you look at that, it's almost like negligible, unless I'm.
No, no, their rate of return is 4% right now.
Yeah, I did not see that, but.
Yeah, that's their current rate. I think that the documents that you received were just their standard documents to enter into. The program, so we already have our investment policy, and like Tony had said. We're limited on what we can invest in. We are safety, liquidity, and yield, and in those directions. This is just another diversification tool. We're already in a pooled account called Michigan Class right now. This is just a different diversification, which the schools mostly use, but they created a sub-account for municipalities.
So what is your desire to have like a 50-50 with my class and the MILAF or?
It all depends on what they have in the pool. So the pool has a whole bunch of investments inside their pool.
And some will be heavier in commercial paper, where others would be more into bonds and securities. So it all depends on what it is at the time.
And you're
But we-
like between the two as needed.
Just county money in general. I'm the chief investment officer for the county, the road commission and transit, so wherever it's needed and wherever, the rates lie.
These funds like the Go My Class, that would allow you to move it
Yeah.
after a certain period of time. So
Yeah, they're all liquid, yeah. So I can move them at any time.
What's the other question, Mike?
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Haskell,
Yes.
Mosley,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Elmore,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Urbitis,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried. Have a quick report.
no report.
Okay, thank you. Jenny.
Okay, I distributed out just your current, the normal reports, the current cash investments and fund balance report. And remember, that's just as of yesterday. So that tells you where, all of the fund balances are for all of our funds as of that date. Just a reminder that the county's public auction is this Friday, the 22nd. It's online only from 10 until 7. And with that, I just wanted to, clarify, there was, a letter to the editor in the paper a week or two ago that has created questions from taxpayers in my office, so my office has been getting phone calls. From taxpayers, as well as I've had a couple commissioners, ask as well, so I just wanted to clarify. The foreclosures, obviously, the foreclosures are not anything our office likes to do, but we are statutorily bound to do. So we had 50 properties that we foreclosed on. And, some are thinking that we foreclosed on 50 families, and that is not the case. We work really hard with people to not have to foreclose, and we really work hard when there's families involved to make sure that that doesn't happen. The 50 parcels that we foreclosed out of approximately 37,000 parcels in Clare County. So that means, we foreclosed on 0.137%, meaning that 99.863% of the people in Clare County are able to pay their taxes. 2 of them were lived in by an owner, and they both filed claims, so they're gonna get any remaining proceeds that happened with the sale. They're going to get all of their money, that's over and above what the taxes were. 25 of the parcels, so that's half, were deceased owners. 25 of them were vacant lots. 43 of them were not homesteads, meaning 7 were homesteads. 5 of the homesteads were deceased people. 2 were lived in, as I said, by owners, and they both filed a claim to get the surplus, sale. We've had 10 claims total that we received on all of them. Altogether. We did have quite a few non-owners living in properties. That they didn't have an interest in. That's a little bit worrisome, but that's not our job. We don't control who lives in the houses, so. We did have those. So I just wanted so that you can take that back to your public, your constituents in your areas. Just a breakdown of the 50 that Clare County did not foreclose on 50 families. I don't know if that helps or not. And then also I had conference last week and we did have the BSNA discussion. And so there is, I think Jack is the only one that's been here for the long haul. I came into office in 2009 for BSNA. When I came in 2009, the board asked me if I would switch to BSNA. And my first question was, BSNA what? I didn't even know what BSNA was. We, as a county, were on Manatron at the time. And so I, for 2 years, had my, looked into it, just seeing whatever it was. And, we had BSNA come and present to see what what BSNA was. Manatron was an antiquated system. BSNA was great. The county made the switch. Back then, it was a .NET version, and with the .NET version, it's the only part of BSNA that we knew at the time. All the assessors were on BSNA. There were 6 local unit treasurers that were on BSNA, and that's why the board wanted us to switch. Because the county had to keep doing conversions between the BSNA and Manatron software. So when BSNA did the presentation and we decided to make the switch, they said if any of the other local units want to come on board, this is for tax programs only, that they would give us a deal. So the county was able to pay for the software for BSNA for tax programs only for all of the local units that were on board. Mind you, 6 already were. There were 2 or 3 local units that didn't even have software. They were doing everything by hand, the green letter sheets and adding to the states that they had. They all came on board, and it was pretty seamless. Manatron was antiquated, and we came on board in 2011, so that means that's been 14 years ago. And Manatron does not exist anymore. So eventually, we would have had to have switched systems anyway. In 2018, the county decided to switch to their financials. The county doesn't have any jurisdiction over it or any need to know the local units, what they have for financial software. So I know many have different ones that money are coming on board to BSNA, but we don't need to know or have any, there's no reason that the county would have any push for anybody to switch to BSNA financials. Ours was strictly for tax programs. Lori and I are looking into these systems. Most of the systems are going to the cloud. So we're researching the programs to see what they are. We're gonna send out RFPs. I mean, I love BSNA, I truly do, but it is going cloud-based. They don't have a sunset, but eventually, it's probably going to go. We're at minimum, I think 2 years out, or probably something like that, before we would ever have to. But we are looking at all avenues, thoroughly looking before we'd ever have to make a decision. So I just wanted to make sure that, we've been talking with BSNA, we're talking with other units. There's not many all-inclusive like BSNA is. There might be one other one, but there's still a chance where we could go with one tax program and do financial separate. And they mostly will integrate, we make sure that they work together.
And then we just found out yesterday, at the end of the day, that BSNA does not have a drain assessment. And so right now, for the cloud, currently our drain has the BSNA drain assessment module. And they're not gonna do anything. So once that doesn't work anymore, the information's gone. I mean, we have a house on our server, but we have to find something else just for drain.
And they currently don't have anything for animal licenses, which
Right.
the .NET version will still work, but that's kind of antiquated itself. So I'm looking into other animal licensing programs as county treasurers solely responsible for selling dog licenses in the county. They do say that they intend to look into updating that because 35 counties do use the animal license software in BSNA. So, there's all of these little pieces, but we are looking thoroughly into what we need.
Yeah, we
make that.
may end up with 3 different systems. We don't know.
But it's a ways out.
Right.
We're gonna thoroughly research it before any of us make decisions, but it just seems to be a hot topic. It was a hot topic at our conference, for sure, so.
As it stands now, where are we, cause I know there's lengths of the contracts out so far. As far as the contracts we have for BSNA, how far are we locked into a contract unless they have a clause for converting over to cloud, getting us out of the .NET contract early? Are we locked in for a certain number of years?
Not locked in.
Okay,
We just do a maintenance fee with them,
okay,
about $38,000 a year currently. And so we're all BSNA.net right now. But they can't sunset that because they have so many people waiting to be, to transition into BSNA cloud. And even if we were to pay for BSNA dot or BSNA cloud today, we wouldn't be able to be on the list to transition until 2027. So they can't close us down. They have to still maintain what we have right now until.
And it may strengthen our position to hold out with converting to the .NET until they are wanting to get closer to sunset where they might, because I know right now they're pressuring a lot of municipalities into converting over to .NET with incentives or with those kind of things. So do you think that it will get a lot more leverage by holding out longer past?
They
or-
say that we won't. They actually told us that we won't. They told us it will be more expensive. Later, but we're gonna
And
still
they're still working on a lot of the kinks, so
Yes, they
there
are.
are only 2 counties that are live, and one of them is really small. I think a third just came on, but they only went on for the tax, their financials aren't with that. So they're still working on some options to get it all worked out. They're more geared right now for the local units is what they're doing. But again, it's mostly the tax side, but they have done the financials, because we have, our cities are using the BSNA financial, and I think we have some local units that switch to the financials as well too. But again, for our purposes, we don't need the local unit financial data, we only need their tax data.
And I know in other sectors, holding out has been beneficial for other companies as everybody's switching over, since AWS and other cloud services are so much cheaper to maintain for the companies, that holding out the staff to be able to maintenance and all of that has been.
But we definitely wanna send out RFPs and just see
Right.
what
Yeah.
else is out there, and if, what else, but most of them are going to the cloud, so
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be cloud-based. I'm curious as to the pricing.
But we also
Different,
want
but-
to look at, right now we pay VC3, they back up all of our information every day. And, we house our own information on our servers, but they back it up. They take care of that security for us. If our information is gonna be cloud-based, that should lower our cost for VC3. Or whatever company we bid that service out as well. So we're looking at that too.
And I think with the startup fee for BSNA, the 267, whatever it is, and that is it's a mix between the annual support and what
It
the hard
is.
cost is, just to be, so. Just to have the software in the cloud. So that's a combination of both, so the part of that would be offset by the one-time fee. But again, we're looking at all areas to see what we can get. We'll send out an RFP, you guys will be aware of it, still have to approve all of it and everything, but. We're thoroughly investigating before we make the jump. And we have time. Anyone have any questions?
Jenny, in the past, you've given us a breakdown of the foreclosures in the townships. Do you have that I can get?
I do.
I'd like to get
I
that.
think you sent something out the other week, but I will. I'll send you something. You wanna know, how many in your area?
Just a breakdown in per township in Clare County,
Yeah,
the numbers.
May I get one too?
absolutely. That is part of it, but I can break it down even further if you want, in between the different breakdowns that I gave you today about what were lots, what homes, et cetera. if you'd like
Might
me
be
to.
beneficial to send that out for everybody.
You kill it. Kill it.
What is that address for the sale?
Tax-sale.info. Any other questions? All right, as always, feel free to come and visit.
Chair report, just been attending my meetings, I can't think of anything that are pressing. Rick,
Not for a vote today?
David,
I have a short report, it's on around.
good.
So in Franklin Township, they've been working on their whole rental agreement the last couple months. They approved the updated version of that. In Summerfield Township, looking at ADA grant for infrastructure. And Hamilton Township, has been concerned about the website, laws that are changing. Websites are gonna have to be ADA compliant for everything. By 2027. And they were discussing whether or not they needed to continue using the website because it is a significant cost increase to make sure that convert everything on the websites to ADA compliance. They also had a discussion on changing wording in their master plan for the park fund, how they're kind of pay for maintenance on it. They have now scheduled a public hearing for it. And they also approved a new updated light plan law. There was pushback off and out. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Gabe?
Yes, Hayes Township has a new ordinance plan enforcement officer. And I only have a couple questions really quick, going back to this MMR. Perhaps we received in the correspondence, what's the difference between area B and area A?
I don't believe,
Don't know that.
I do not.
And do we know when the Med Board meets, did they identify any meeting dates? Still not.
No.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Marlene?
I have nothing to report.
Chad?
Nothing of interest.
Nothing for me.
Jacob?
Surrey Township was inquiring about what the county's plan is for BSNA. I gave them a brief overview of pretty much what we went over today. They are interested if you do find anything, as far as other softwares, to let them know, so that way they can, they're aware of that. And then also they wanted to know when the next meeting for those ambulance stuff is. I know that there was one planned and then it's rescheduled, so.
While we're on that, I called Mike, so it was Mike having the issue. I called Mike to talk to him about it, and it's just same thing he keeps repeating. And he even talked to MMR directly, and I gave him the information he wanted. He's still not happy. He would like to have the board actually discuss and vote on whether or not we want to have a countywide millage specifically to increase the ambulance service in Clare County. I thought we had already done that. And I explained to him, I thought we dealt with that about 3 months ago.
Yeah, George, MMR was right here and gave the presentation. They said throwing more money at it
That's
is
exactly,
not gonna make a difference.
that's
in
exactly what I
response
told him.
times.
The only way it would make a difference, and they mentioned that too, is if you wanted to, for $1 million, you could designate an ambulance that would never leave the county. But then where do you put that ambulance? And so my suggestion was, if there are townships that feel they're not being served adequately, maybe they could have a township millage of some
And that's
type.
what I had mentioned to him. It's
And
something that if Surrey Township and the surrounding townships, they might do an intergovernmental agreement on
that's what I,
trying to get an ambulance spotted out in that area.
so we're all on the same
Covers
page then. Because I didn't, a countywide millage would not pass.
Well, and we
Yeah.
currently aren't under any contract with MMR
No.
to kind of have any kind of leverage to be able to go, hey, it's something that they're doing.
Right. So I agree, and I told him, they had already told us throwing more money at it wouldn't solve our countywide issue. Okay, did anybody feel any differently? Does anyone think a countywide village would be a benefit? Okay, then I wasn't out of line. Yes, I already called Mike and addressed that issue.
Perfect. Other than that, that's all for my report. And
Dale.
Yeah, super. Just attended my meetings, committee meetings and stuff like that. Few things going on. Lincoln Township's working towards their park grant that they received. They've got bids out right now and they're hoping to have groundbreaking in October. So they're hoping to finish up on the project sometime the first quarter of next year. So that's working good. They also received a DNR grant for trees. Approximately, if I can remember right, I think it's like 60 trees that they can plant throughout the township. So that was a nice grant, so they're moving forward on that, and that's about it.
Okay, on the new business, I asked Lori if she would put on PA 152 for discussion. But we vote on that every year, whether to opt out of PA 152 or not. And I think everyone's familiar with that's the amount of
Mhm.
the county contributes toward employee insurance. And I think we need to visit that and decide what percentage we want to put on the employees for their share of the insurance. So Lori got some figures together and we need to discuss that and be prepared to vote on it at our next. Lori.
Well, last year, we adopted the priority health plan for the 2 years, knowing that we would have a 14% increase this year. And we do have 45 people that opt out of the insurance, which we still see a savings with the amount of people that opt out of the insurance of $211,000. Currently, a single insurance, an employee pays $6.78. County pays $604.51. A double is the employee pays $13.20 out of each paycheck, and county pays $1,458.46. And a family, the employee pays $17.35 out of each paycheck, and the county pays $1,820.97. If you opt out of PA 152, if you don't opt out, then you just are automatically in PA 152 and the hard caps apply. The hard cap cost share for an employee, a single would be $68.60 per pay. Double, $164.64 per pay. And a family would be $205.80 per pay. If you wanted to change the percentage of what the employee pays for the insurance, you could, change it. Right now, it's a 2%. But you could,
Then more like 1%.
it's less than 2%. But, you could change it to 5%, 10%, 15%. But if you do that, you still have to opt out of PA 152. If you don't do anything, then the hard caps apply, period.
I just thought we should come up with a percentage or amount before we vote on PA 152, so we know what the options are. How does anyone else?
Like if we come up with anything other than what was the stated amount there, we have to opt out, correct?
Right. Go ahead.
Get that out, yeah, even the stated amount except for the hard cap. Just defaults to the hard cap.
Any questions for Lori?
Don't we have to have like a month before October 1st for people to?
Yeah, we would like to have it, taken care of before we do open enrollment.
Right.
So I'd like to have a discussion about it so that we could, at least even have another meeting. And decide if we're gonna opt out or not, so that we can be prepared for open enrollment for the employees. Which will be in September.
It's budgeted in our medical costs right now, right?
In this next year's budget, yes.
Mhm.
And we have a 2-year contract for our health, more year ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to keep in mind, keep the employees in mind when we're making this decision, that's for sure, what's best for them, I think, because that's one of the reasons why we attract some of the best employees is our benefit plan.
I'm leaning, my opinion is if we're gonna do this. Right now, might, maybe not the right time, as long as we got it budgeted. But maybe something to look for, to come up with next year's package and not do it 2 weeks before we have to have a decision on it. It's just my thought on what comes to the top of my head on that. But I don't disagree with you. You know, pension costs are climbing and everything's climbing. I'm with you on that, but I don't know if we've got this budgeted if.
And a 1%
or just not this
contribution
goal.
is nothing.
Right,
So that's basically their insurance is free. So having them pay a small portion, I don't think would be out of line. With the X my tax movement on, if that's put on the ballot, it will pass. And then the county is gonna be in severe dire straits. Because if we don't have property tax coming in to support the county, where would we be at, Jenny?
50%.
Not,
There, yeah, well, I could do a budget for that.
Just saying, we need to have
I
people.
know our
more
budget's
prepared than
50%.
they are.
Yeah, property tax.
well, and I'm not saying I'm against that, only thing that. It just seems to be that we do this always. When we need to approve it, we're always questioning it and we should be a little more proactive, I feel.
Putting it on earlier in the year.
Yeah,
Yeah, the only thing about that is, you know, we had switched insurances. So we couldn't get anybody else to bid because there was no history, right? So now we're gonna have history next year, so we could have somebody else bid. And know what other costs might be out there.
and make,
But-
plan, even have this company make some plans with different
Right.
cost sharing.
Right,
And how that would work.
When do we apply for bids for, since this year will be the last year for this contract, when will we start putting out and accepting bids for next year?
April,
April?
Will they do it, Nathan?
they'll do it in April.
Most of
They,
them
they
don't
should
do it in
do it
August.
in April. Yeah, most of them will wait and get you the information August. Because then you have to hurry and make a decision.
And there's another thing we could do for next year is make that. January 1 would be the date we would adopt the insurance, because that way, when the rates come out in August, you've got that period of time. To actually get rates and make a decision with current numbers. That's what we did at work, so.
I agree with Jeff, the budget for this year. But we do need to look at the level, we're gonna have to start paying for it.
Mhm.
I am hearing that it looks like the exit tax is well on its way to getting on the ballot. And so whether it passes or not, that's a different story. But
I'm afraid of it.
better vote on it.
I'm afraid if it's on the ballot, it will pass. And that's gonna destroy local government.
Well, they gotta have a different funding stream then if it does, you
Well,
know.
but if it all comes from the state's gonna tell you what you're gonna
Well, I know, I'm just saying,
do. So that's no local control.
disband all the police and everything else.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
they're not, that's not gonna happen, I don't think.
No, and it's not going to happen right away.
No,
They're going to have to put the, you know, like a rate increase in the sales tax, that's constitutionally, that has to be voted on by the people. They can't raise the property taxes or not the property taxes, but the sales tax to fill in the holes. So there will be a time period where, I mean, if they just, okay, the election's today and it's been decided, we're gonna do away with property taxes, well, that's impossible to do that. So there will be some mechanisms put in place. The legislature's got to handle it. But you are right, George. The state will take the things that they want to fund. And the rest of us are gonna have to figure out how to do it.
It'll no longer be our decision, it'll be theirs. Okay, if anybody has questions, they should look into it, then we need to be prepared to vote on this. Is the next meeting soon enough?
No,
we probably have to set a special meeting. To vote on. To vote if we're in opt out or not.
do we feel we could do it now? I don't know, no one wants to, but. I've seen a lot of nods, yes, to, we should keep it the same this year by the commissioners, do we wanna have a special meeting or we wanna vote on it now?
You wanna move the motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Hey, roll call, please.
This is the motion to opt out.
Opt out.
This is to opt out.
Opt out and maintain what we're currently doing for cemetery.
Sorry, adding notes are unexpected. So. To recap, Pascal made the motion and Oakley seconded.
Yes.
All right, everybody,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Jeske,
Yes.
Gilmore,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
Pascal,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Osler.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Is there any further business we need to take care of today? Any public comment?
I'm glad I do.
Okay, please stand up and state your name for the.
I'm Mary Ann Anthony. I'm from Lincoln Township. I'm glad to hear that you're not rushing through because I read an article in the paper that had to do with the budget. And it was kind of rushed through when there were a couple of people on the board that needed more time to process it. But it was voted to pass the budget. And I think that it's important too, because often something was said that later on it would be taken care of. Well, often when we vote on something, that's it, and it's not often changed in the future.
That's true, but we did not hurry through on the budget either. All of the members had that a month ahead of time.
Okay, well, but a month sometimes isn't enough time, especially when it's 19 pages long. It's just a suggestion.
Any other public comment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion, we adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Motion adjourned.